Oh, shit, I was muted. Alright, cool. I didn't say anything notable anyway. Just getting all started up. Alright. Gotta remember to, actually, hold on, let me re-enable the, this is testing for audio to allow guests to come on. And I had turned off the filters for background music. So let me turn those back on real quick. Retired Men's Nude Beach Volleyball League is the title of an actual game. Probably one of the banned games on Twitch. They got a few that are just banned. Because they're too not safe for work. I remember one of them is genital jousting. Oh, yeah, there we go. Alright, I think everything should be good and set up now. Seems like I'm getting the good feed through. Ooh, better hide the window in case anybody posted some bullshit. Nope, just more news than non-posts. Cool. But I do want to disable auto refresh. Where? Oh, somebody posted some link or whatever, and I guess it just got filtered. Because I don't see it in my chat, but it's, I'll get it this time. It's here. Somebody posted a link, but I guess it got spam filtered. Let's see. Right, I've got to get the YouTube chat out. Oh no, it's on. Somebody posted it on a YouTube. So it's not spam. It's just maybe that is a link. I don't know. It looks like a web link. I don't know what voy FYI means. All right. Let's see. So it's going to be a second before everybody filters in. I'm just going to take a quick look at some of these headlines. First day of the Kim Potter trial. The actual trial proceedings started today. And he only got through opening arguments in a couple of witnesses. But we'll see where that goes. So far, it looks like the defense is floundering. They were pulling out the old tricks about, oh, there was marijuana in the car, and it was a high crime area, and the cops were on edge because it's so dangerous. You know, that type of thing. And the prosecution was actually able to find obvious errors that the defense had made about, like, just the classification of crime, saying that, like, possession of marijuana is a felony, but it's actually, like, in a small amount, it's a misdemeanor in Minnesota. So it's looking like Kim Potter is going to get convicted for killing Dante Wright, although it's going to be manslaughter charges and not murder charges. Even though they probably could make a case that it was premeditated, I think. But yeah, so that's for anyone who doesn't know, that's the cop who killed Dante Wright during the George Floyd trials, just like down the road basically from the Hennepin County Courthouse. And she was shouting taser, but she pulled her gun instead. Let's see. Alright, so let's just start reading through some of these headlines, and I'll start opening up anything that looks interesting, and I'll post on the Matrix anytime I'm gonna start reading a story, because that seems to be effective at getting people to come in if they're interested in a particular story. Vark.tech. Let's see, it looks like spam or something. I mean, it's not intelligible to me. It does look like links. Anyway. Where was I? Alright, so what are the stories that News Anon has provided us with? I will remind everybody, of course, you can submit your own stories and you can cue your own music using the, where is it? The, Twitch chat, or you can just ask me and I'll do it manually. So anyway, for December 8th, what is this? Did it just stop for some reason? Huh. Yeah, I don't know why, but the music player just stopped, so I'll restart it. Alright, so Peru's Castillo fends off Congress impeachment vote amid protests. Peruvian lawmakers voted 76 against the motion and 46 in favor, short of the threshold required to proceed to an impeachment trial. That seems rather short, yeah. After Castillo garnered support in recent days to fend off the attempts to oust him by right-wing parties. So, definitely gonna look into that. I was paying a lot of attention to the Castillo trial when that was election, the Peruvian election where Castillo won. I was paying a lot of attention to that when it was going on, so that's significant. Chile legalizes same-sex marriage in a historic vote. Chile's Congress passed a law to legalize same-sex marriage on Tuesday, in a milestone for the conservative South American nation after a decade-long battle, and with the country delicately poised ahead of a crossroads election this month. Well, so that's interesting. It might signal, or not signal, but it might be related to, you know, evolving political climate in South America. We'll see where that election will probably be really interesting, I guess. I have to keep an eye out for that. Britain gathered intelligence for U.S. in order to undermine the Cuban Revolution, documents reveal. The British embassy in Havana was used to gather intelligence for the United States as it attempted to undermine the Cuban Revolution during the Cold War, new documents have revealed. According to an investigation by Declassified UK, Britain has also mounted its own operations, including propaganda aimed at smearing the revolution's leaders, including Fidel and Raul Castro. So I'll definitely read that one. Coffee crisis in Central America fuels record exodus north. Coffee doesn't pay for many of the hundreds of thousands of Central American farmers who produce the delicate Arabica beans for the world's finest grounds. Increasingly, they are giving up, becoming part of a broader migrant flow to the U.S.-Mexico border that U.S. data shows has hit a record high this year. So that's irrelevant. It might, that might be related to climate change, too. If it becomes difficult to grow the coffee plants. Russia blocks Tor anonymity service. Tor, an acronym for the Onion Router, is an encryption software that allows users to stealthily surf the internet and bypass locally imposed web restrictions. It is used by an estimated 300,000 Russians daily, about 15% of all Tor users. That might have something to do with how Tor is being used by, or possibly compromised by, the United States intelligence services. Canada to join diplomatic boycott of Olympics to send China human rights message. We'll look at that one too. Canada will join its allies in a diplomatic boycott of the 2020 Winter Olympics in Beijing to send China a message over its human rights record, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said on Wednesday. Australia and Britain will join the diplomatic boycott, their prime ministers said on Wednesday, as other allies weighed similar moves to protest at China's human rights record. Yeah, I already opened that one. More than half of Israelis support attacking Iran without U.S. backing, poll says. Well, I guess we're going to read that too. Slightly more than half of Israelis say they would support their country attacking Iran without a green light from the United States, according to a poll released on Wednesday by the Israeli Democracy Institute. The results come as world powers are locked in increasingly difficult negotiations with Iran over its nuclear program. So, things might be heating up in the Middle East now. U.S. Congress allows Saudi Arabia weapons sale to proceed. The chamber on Tuesday voted 67 to 30 against the resolution, which represented the latest attempt by legislators to attempt to block U.S. weapons transfers to Saudi Arabia over its involvement in the continuing war in Yemen. It had been introduced by Republicans Mike Lee and Rand Paul, as well as Bernie Sanders, an independent who caucuses with the Democrats. Now, I guess we'll take a look at that too. More Middle East stories. CDS Bipin Rawat wife and 11 Army personnel died in IAF chopper crash in Tennessee. The fate of General and surely it's not Tennessee. The fate of General Rawat is not immediately known. Union Defense Minister confirmed his demise on Wednesday evening. Deeply anguished by the sudden demise of CDS General Bipin Rawat, his wife, and 11 other armed forces personnel in a helicopter accident, Singh said. What is TN? Tamil Nadu, okay, yeah. That's pretty severe crash then. Alright. Gay? Okay. Yeah, somebody said gay, that they're gay, and that's, yeah, that is gay, sure. Alright, yeah, so nobody has, specific requests. I'm gonna just go through them in order. This one is particularly of note, because it's a continuation of a story that I was already following. So, go ahead and notify the chat. Alright, so let's zoom in so we can get a little bit of a better view here. Alright, so Pedro Castillo gestures during a debate in Arequipa, Peru, May 30th, 2021. So that's during the election. Demonstrators in favor of President Pedro Castillo gather near the Congressional Building in Lima, Peru, December 7th, 2021. So just yesterday. Demonstrator in favor of President Pedro Castillo holds a sign reading "No to Impeachment, Close the Congress, New Constitution" near the Congressional Building in Lima, Peru. A demonstrator holds a sign reading "Castillo Thief" during a protest against President Castillo near the Congressional Building in Lima, Peru. So they found one person who had a sign against him. Demonstrators in favor of President Pedro Castillo gather near the Congressional Building in Lima, Peru, December 7th, 2021. Alright. Lima, December 7th, via Reuters. Peruvian President Pedro Castillo gained breathing room on Tuesday after Congress voted against a motion to impeach him amid protests in capital city Lima, both for and against the under-fire leftist leader. Peruvian lawmakers voted 76 against the motion and 46 in favor, short of the threshold required to proceed to an impeachment trial after Castillo garnered support in recent days to fend off the attempt to oust him by right-wing parties. The impeachment vote had threatened to tip Peru into political uncertainty, with Castillo battling crises as his popularity wanes months into his administration amid corruption allegations of widespread mining protests. Oh, can you hear me now? Was there an issue with audio? There's sometimes there's an issue with the SciTube. I know that it has issues with certain mobile browsers. I've seen it once or twice, I think. It seems to be a little finicky and inconsistent about it. I've never run into that issue with a web browser, though. but who knows? But yeah, either way, appreciate you popping in. But yeah, if you can't hear me, yeah, if you can't hear me, let me know. To me, I'm seeing that I'm sending out audio just fine, but it could be something that happens past that point. Alright, Castillo's own party, Marxist Peru Libre, had at one point considered supporting the impeachment vote had threatened to tip Peru into political uncertainty, with Castillo battling crises as his popularity wanes months into his administration amid corruption allegations and widespread mining protests. Castillo's own party, the Marxist Peru Libre, had at one point considered supporting the motion, though on Monday rallied behind the president despite clashing with him over policy and called the attempt at a right-wing coup. So SciTube might have a problem with audio that needs to be fixed. That's definitely, every time that it comes up, it needs to be like noted, so I'll forward that to the mods later, I guess. So yeah, initially, yeah, the Peru Libre was going to be in conflict with Castillo because he kind of backtracked a bit on some of the campaign promises and some of the programs of the party, but I guess they're going to stand with him in solidarity against people trying to oust him over, being a lefty. All right, the impeachment motion failed, fascism failed, the parliamentary blow to democracy failed. Peru Libre leader Vladimir Cerrón, who hasn't always seen eye to eye with the more moderate Castillo, said on Twitter after the vote. Earlier in the day, hundreds of protesters supporting and opposing Castillo, a former teacher from a peasant farming family, had congregated around Congress. "We want to keep working," said Maria Lazaro Cornelio, a protester supporting Castillo, who came to office in July, pledging major social change. We want him to keep his word on things that he has promised us." Another protester who gave her name as Jackie said she wanted Castillo out because she alleged he was destroying Peru, destroying our economy and all the freedom of all Peruvians. Doesn't that just sound familiar? More freedom. The impeachment push, backed by right-wing lawmaker and defeated presidential candidate Keiko Fujimori, has appeared to lose steam in recent days after Castillo held talks with various political parties. The issue of vacating the presidency is slowly being deflated, Vice President Dina Boluarte told reporters earlier on Tuesday. The three right-wing parties seeking Castillo's removal controlled 43 legislators. The motion needed 52 votes from the 130 members of Congress to move forward, and then needed 87 votes in a later vote to remove the president from office. The reprieve comes as prosecutors investigate alleged cases of corruption by aides to Castillo, who accused his opponents and economic interest groups of conspiring against him. The Andean country's fragmented Congress has a history of clashing with the executive branch. The copper-rich country has had 5 presidents since 2016. In 2018, Pedro Pablo Kuczynski resigned from the presidency minutes before an impeachment vote, while centrist Martin Vizcarra was ousted following 2 impeachment trials last year. So, it looks like Pedro's gonna stay. Old Pete Castle is gonna remain the president of Peru. For now, at least. So, there was potential threats that was going to be an issue, but it looks like it won't be. Alright, so we'll move on to some good old anti-communism. Good old reaction. Britain gathered intelligence for U.S. in order to undermine the Cuban Revolution, documents reveal. Which is, hardly surprising. Alright, so in the picture we've got from left to right, Fidel Castro, Osvaldo Dorticos Torrado, Che Guevara, I think this one, Augusto Martinez Sanchez, Antonio Nunez Jimenez, William Alexander Morgan, and Eloy Gutierrez Menoyo walked through Havana on March 5th, 1960. So the British embassy in Havana was used to gather intelligence for the United States as it attempted to undermine the Cuban Revolution during the Cold War, new documents have revealed. According to an investigation by Declassified UK, Britain also mounted its own operations, including propaganda aimed at smearing the revolution's leaders, including Fidel and Raul Castro. The operations involved the propaganda department of the Foreign Office, the Information Research Department, IRD, and took place as the West's US-led Cold War against the Soviet Union was intensifying. No, I can't make the sidebar go away by zooming. It's good this is increasingly being put to public light. Yeah, it's good anytime this kind of stuff comes out. Unfortunately, it's all coming out well after the end of the Cold War, when this is stuff that, you know, could have been relevant to bring up before. Might have had an impact on something. But it's good that we have it now. The files reveal that in August 1962, Leslie Boas, Britain's regional information officer for Latin America based in Caracas, Venezuela, circulated a report on the leading political personalities in Cuba. Mr. Boas wrote, "Having read the report, it has occurred to me that we could make effective use of some of the information it contains for propaganda purposes. We could put out in a completely unattributable fashion an anonymous source, the fabled anonymous source, a leaflet entitled Personalities of the Cuban Revolution, in which the more dubious aspects of the leading figures in the Cuban scene would be highlighted." At that point, just lie. You know, just make it up. Occasional buffering. That might be... Let me check. Preview the... Well, it looks like it's hardly live either. It looks like it's... Yeah, I think it's just that the servers are, I think it's the servers are just shitty that I'm using. Because I'm definitely not real time, at least on Twitch. Let me see, YouTube might be good. Of course, if I put it on YouTube, then I won't have any views on Twitch, and it'll really not be live. Alright, but I'll copy the YouTube link, just because Twitch is being obnoxious right now. Hold on. You can make the resolution lower too. But I'm gonna put on YouTube if people are having buffering issues. One of the good reasons to have multiple outlets. So yeah, I think now it might be. So yeah, I think oh, it's caught up. That's pretty much live. Alright, so yeah, that's a good reason to have multiple outlets, is if one is fucked up, you can switch to the other one. Alright. Yeah, thanks for notifying me. Sometimes that shit happens, you know. Sometimes Twitch just... Maybe they're having a high load day or something, who knows. It does seem to be pretty spotty with quality. So, it'd be interesting to see if I get a change in the views where all goes over to YouTube. The YouTube one seems to not work so well, though. Oh, I'm glad that the YouTube sound works for you. I know that was like a problem for a while. I actually had a problem with that, like a couple of weeks ago. For the first time, I actually didn't get sound when I opened SciTube on my phone. But, it only happened like once, and then after that it was not a problem anymore. I don't know. I guess the tech team fixed it, maybe. Or maybe YouTube fixed its embedding software. Who can say? Alright, seems all clear now suddenly. Yeah, where was I? Yeah, so we're talking about, the UK trying to, like, psyop, the leaders of the Cuban Revolution. We could put out in a completely unattributable fashion a leaflet entitled Personalities of the Cuban Revolution, in which the more dubious aspects of the leading figures of the Cuban scene would be highlighted. Hold on a second, I gotta respond to... Alright, so the files note that senior IRD, that's, I hate the, Information Research Department in the Foreign Affairs Office, no, the Foreign Office, the files note that senior IRD official Rosemary Alad suggested the unit might include suitable stories circulating in Cuba, adding, "I heard one in Havana, since forgotten, on Raul Castro as a homosexual." Well, I guess it's a good thing that Cuba was, you know, moved at some point. I don't know the timing of this, but moved at some point to be a little bit okay with LGBT people instead of, you know, discriminating. But it shows you how different the times were. Another IRD official, Jeffrey McWilliam, wrote to the British ambassador in Havana that Raul Castro's homosexuality wouldn't be suitable for inclusion in the leaflet. Oh, see, so they were having an argument in the intelligence community about how woke they needed to be in smearing the communists. The files also show that during the 1970s, the IRD produced forged documents in an attempt to attack Cuba's anti-apartheid campaigns in Africa. Really? Can't even combat racism and apartheid. Cuba Solidarity Campaign Director Rob Miller told The Star, "It comes as little surprise to read about these limited UK attempts to support US destabilization against Cuba. As the junior partner, Britain has always kowtowed to US policies against the island across the region. However, it is also important to recognize that the UK has generally taken a more independent policy towards Cuba and has maintained full diplomatic trading relations with Havana continuously since 1959. The UK issued credit guarantees to support UK-Cuba trade in the 1960s and has encouraged bilateral trade ever since, to the ire of the US." Yeah, Mr. Miller said that Britain should and could do so much more to counteract the extraterritorial U.S. blockade policies and stand up for a policy of engagement rather than aggression and isolation. Yeah, but it's more important to be friendly with the U.S. than to be reasonable with international relations. But maybe that's not so much the case anymore, you know? And this coming out now might be related to the current reshuffling of geopolitics and the alliances that's going on, as the power of the United States is quite obviously waning. So, it'd be interesting to see if more stuff like that comes out. Wait, which tab is this? This one. Alright. I'll go ahead and post in the chat again. So we got coffee crisis in Central America fuels record exodus north. Mass migration stuff. Let's see. Coffee berries grow and farm in El Laurel on the state of Olancho, Honduras, September 22nd, 2021. Coffee producer Eugenio Bonilla speaks during an interview with Reuters at a coffee farm in El Laurel, the state of Olancho, Honduras, September 22nd. Nayeli Funes, or Funes, unless they missed the little thing on the end. Daughter of coffee producer Maria Bonilla, plays in her house at a coffee farm in El Laurel, the state of Olancho in Honduras. Coffee producer Maria Bonilla, whose 4 sons embarked on the treacherous journey to the U.S., speaks during an interview with Reuters in her house at a coffee farm in El Laurel in the state of Olancho, Honduras. A house abandoned by its owners who emigrated to the U.S. is pictured at a coffee farm in El Laurel, the state of Olancho, Honduras. So, we're getting like a ghost. Oh, come on. I have to register to read the article from Reuters. I don't get... surely there's a way around that. Well, I've reached my article limit. Oh, hold on. Let me then... I know the solution to this. I thought it was just like a paywall thing, but there's a way around this. Let's see. Wait, do I have... I think I might have an add-on that just deletes cookies by website. There we go. Destroy cookies when tab is closed. Let's see if that worked. Reuters. No, that didn't work. Alright, well, I do need to adjust. I just saw that I didn't include YouTube. Oh, no, I do include YouTube. Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter. So as long as I don't delete those, I'm good. So I'll just destroy cookies. Is there just a button I could click to do it? I don't want to close the browser right now. Alright, I need to configure that. We'll do other stories instead. That's a bummer. Surely there should just be an option that lets you click the button to destroy the cookies, but I guess not. Switch IP. I don't have a dynamic IP address. And I'm not gonna go, it works through, I would think they'd probably block, like some basic, proxy that I could pull up. Russia blocks, but yeah, speaking of, skirting, like, security measures and stuff, I guess I'm gonna read this story instead. It's easier to just skip some stories because, I don't want to be here forever. It takes a while to get through some of them. Alright, Russia blocks Tor anonymity service. Russia has blocked the web anonymity service Tor, the RBC Business Daily reported Wednesday, citing state communications watchdog Roskomnadzor, in what activists warned is part of an effort to restrict internet freedom within the country. Tor, an acronym for the Onion Router, is encryption software that allows users to stealthily surf the internet and bypass locally imposed web restrictions. It is used by an estimated 300,000 Russians daily, about 15% of all Tor users. Roskomnadzor said it included the Tor browser website in its register of prohibited information because it posted information that ensures the operation of tools that provide access to illegal content. Tor's developers earlier this week reported that the authorities had started to block the platform, with users complaining that they were unable to access the browser from December 1st. In a statement on the platform's website on Wednesday, Tor, which is developed by Seattle-based The Tor Project, confirmed that the service is now blocked in Russia. The Russian government has officially blocked our main website in Russia. So they're just blocking the are they just blocking the website, or are they blocking the actual, like, they're not, are they blocking the Tor client and the ability for people to connect through the, because it keeps saying the website. They urged the international community to put pressure on Russia to undo their decision to block the service, but now they're saying that the service is blocked. The torproject.org website has already been added to Roskomnadzor's registry of sites that contain prohibited information following a court ruling in 2017. However, that court ruling didn't restrict access to the site. Let's see, is it? Interesting. So I'm not seeing that I've currently got viewers through the YouTube stream. So maybe the viewers don't count if it's through an embed. That's fine, but that's interesting. Alright, yeah, the site to download. Well, that's definitely blocked, but it's unclear if they're blocking just the site or if they're blocking the service too, because it says their decision to block the service. So if only everybody who wrote articles on tech news were like tech literate and could write this kind of stuff clearly, so that we knew exactly what was going on. Why the Kremlin blocking Tor is a big deal. Russian authorities have accused Tor of providing a platform for illegal activities, including drug and gun sales, while Russian internet activists say the move to block it is part of the country's ongoing crackdown on internet freedom. This fits into the trend that we have been seeing lately. There is a real attack on internet freedom, says Alexander Isavinin, a member of the Internet Protection Society group. Isavinin said Russia is moving closer toward implementing its so-called sovereign internet that will allow the country to cut itself off from the rest of the World Wide Web. The internet is Russia's main platform for political debate, and Kremlin critics say that the authorities have been eager to clamp down on online dissent. Will they stop the traffic through Tor servers in other countries within Russia? Yeah, I would think it would be very difficult for them to. Maybe there's. I'm not familiar enough with the stuff, but they. Yeah, I would think it'd be way more difficult for them to block the actual service than just the website. But yeah, if you. They're talking about. They just said in the article that Putin is planning on. Cutting Russia off from the rest of the internet, so yeah, block non-Russian servers, not just for Tor, but in general, might be where they're going. Anyway, Russia adopted a number of measures to increase its control over the internet in recent years, including controversial laws that require companies to store Russian users' data on servers located in Russia. The country has also blocked access to several virtual private network services, which authorities say allow access to illegal online content in violation of Russian law. VPNs allow internet users to a greater level of anonymity online and can provide access to material that has been blocked by internet service providers. So, in general, they're kind of cracking down on this stuff. Actually, I'm going to check real quick and see if there's any footage of protests ongoing, because there was supposed to be there's supposed to be a protest happening. Yeah, Unicorn Right is about to go live, but they haven't yet. There's supposed to be a protest happening in either Minneapolis or in Brooklyn Center about the Kimbata trial, but I'm not sure if that's live yet. Let me just search, see if there's anything I can pull up for that. No, it just looks like somebody's... Yeah, doesn't look like there's any coverage yet. But I'll keep an eye on Unicorn Riot in case they go live. Alright. Let's see, Canada to join diplomatic boycott of Olympics to send China human rights message. Alright. So we got here, staff members work near the emblem for Beijing 2022 Winter Olympics displayed at the Shanghai Sports Museum in Shanghai, China, December 8th. Canada's Minister of Sport. They have a Minister of Sport. Huh. Pascal Saint-Onge, with Minister in Foreign Affairs Melanie Joly and Parliamentary Secretary, the Minister of Sport Adam van Coeverden speaks during a press conference on Parliament Hill in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, with Minister of Sport Pascal Saint-Onge and Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Sport Adam van Coeverden, speaks during a press conference on Parliament Hill in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, December 8th. Canada's Minister of Foreign Affairs Melanie Joly speaks during a press conference. Okay. This is such stupid shit. They didn't have a problem with China in 2018. What's the problem now? Oh, it's all just politics. It's all virtue signaling. You know, you got to posture. You got to say which side you're on. Oh, god damn it. It's another Reuters article. How do I delete cookies? I want to just delete it, but it doesn't have an option that would just delete it. Close tab and reopen tab. Nope. Whatever. I need to get just self-destructing cookies to work. But yeah, so I mean, it's the same thing. Canada's joining on the bullshit train. Well, what a surprise. Alright. Fucking monthly limits. Dumb bullshit, dude. Actually, I should also start posting the links to the articles in the chats so anybody watching could read them. But anyway, more than half of Israelis support attacking Iran without U.S. backing, poll says. With nuclear talks in Vienna stalling, a slim majority of Israelis say they are willing to go it alone against Iran. Here's Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett and Foreign Minister Yair Lapid attend the weekly cabinet meeting in Jerusalem. This is December 5th. Slightly more than half of Israelis say they would support their country attacking Iran without a green light from the United States, according to a poll released Wednesday by the Israel Democracy Institute. That's what democracies do, right? Democracies bomb other countries. That's just a normal thing. Slightly more than half of Israelis say they would support their country attacking Iran without a green light. The results come as world powers are locked in increasingly difficult negotiations with Iran over its nuclear program. European diplomats have accused Tehran of backstabbing on compromises it made earlier this year in a draft agreement that set the stage for the current round of talks. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken also issued a pessimistic outlook on the state of negotiations on Friday, stating, "What we've seen in the last couple of days is that Iran right now does not seem to be serious about doing what's necessary to return to compliance." They weren't the ones that broke compliance. Trump ended the deal. And they said, okay, so we're not going to comply with it since the deal's off. Oh my god, what a joke. So here, there's people talk about like the effect that Trump has had on politics. There's one thing that he did that was actually like beneficial, is that he gave Iran the freedom to do what they want with nuclear power, or even nuclear weapons, maybe. The United States withdrew from the Iranian nuclear deal in 2018 under former U.S. President Donald Trump, who argued in part that the deal failed to hold Iran accountable to account for its use of regional proxies and support of terrorism. Yeah, okay. The Trump administration imposed debilitating sanctions on Tehran as part of a maximum pressure campaign. At the same time, Iran began accelerating its nuclear program. I mean, yeah, of course. Israel and the United States Gulf allies supported the U.S. withdrawal from the deal. More recently, the UAE and Saudi Arabia have reached out to Tehran directly, driven by concerns over Washington's commitment to the defense. Israel has remained a vocal critic of the talks in Vienna. In a phone call with Blinken last week, Prime Minister Naftali Bennett called for an immediate end to the negotiations with Tehran. I call on every country negotiating with Iran in Vienna to take a strong line and make it clear to Iran they cannot enrich uranium and negotiate at the same time, Bennett said Sunday. Iran must begin to pay a price for its violations. They're not violating anything. The deal's off. Bennett added that Israel was working to convince the U.S. to pursue a different toolkit in dealing with Tehran's nuclear program. Israel is believed to have previously targeted Iran and its nuclear program through the assassination of scientists, as well as attacks sabotaging its nuclear sites. Yeah, that's right. There was like a bomb. There was like a bomb that went off at one of their sites not too long ago. I wonder how many and who actually responded to the poll. Yeah, that's the thing about polls, is you never can be sure. You never can be sure if they're not like just publishing the actual poll data. They love to be like, oh, we polled people, and it's like they polled 40 people. And it's like phone calls or something, so it's highly selective. The way the US and friends act like it's Iran's fault makes my head spin. Yeah, I know, it's amazing. It's also really funny because, like, the media is so happy to blame Trump for anything involved that he was even slightly related to. And then here's like a thing that was like, definitely Trump did this, and it's like a big problem for them. But they can't say that it's Trump's fault that Trump did something wrong, because that means that the US is in the wrong on this deal, and they're not shitting on Iran, and they're not saying like, okay, we're not manufacturing consent for more sanctions or more controls or whatever. Yeah, meanwhile Israel has nukes. Yeah. And they're also the only country that has like a first strike policy that involves just basically throwing nukes at everybody, like in a deliberate attempt to cause the apocalypse. They're not the only country with a first strike policy, but they're the only country that has a first strike policy that's explicitly about trying to end the world, basically. Which is, of course, they don't want to do that, obviously. It's meant to be a deterrent, but you know, it only works as a deterrent if people believe that they're willing to do it. Israel is believed that previously, Iranian officials blamed Israel for power outages that allegedly caused an explosion. That's it, at its Natanz uranium enrichment plant in April. And last year, 3 U.S. officials said Israel was responsible for a roadside ambush that killed Iran's top nuclear scientist. I remember that one too. Israel's spy chief, Mossad Director David Barnea, said last week that Israel was prepared to act to make sure Iran didn't have nuclear weapons. Iran will not have nuclear weapons, not in the coming years, not ever. That is my promise, that is Mossad's promise, he said. Well, maybe you should have Mossaded Trump before he tore up the deal then, if you wanted that so bad. Alright, more from the Middle East. U.S. Congress allows Saudi Arabia weapons deal sale to proceed. You just pop that into the chat. And you know, yeah, I'll link this in the stream chats. Just so people can get the link, particularly on people viewing it later. I just need to make a habit of doing that. Alright, so U.S. Congress allows Saudi Arabia weapons deal to proceed. A bipartisan bid to block the $650 million sale of missiles and missile launchers has failed in the U.S. Senate. The United States, this is, I guess, a picture of the kind of missile. Patriot missile battery as seen in Saudi Arabia. A Patriot missile battery. Dog bless America. I'm gonna... Oh, is that not the... I thought that was the name of it. Hold on. Maybe it's... 2 O's? I forgot the name of my own emote thing. No, I spelled it right. Oh, you don't use the... I forgot it's not SciTube. You don't use the little colons. No, I screwed it up again. Alright, whatever. Last time is the charm. There we go. Pretty good. I can't believe they just would name it something like Patriot Missile. Anyway. The United States Senate has blocked a resolution that would have banned a $650 million sale of missiles and missile launchers to Saudi Arabia. The sale was approved by the administration of President Joe Biden in November. It is the first major arms deal between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia since Biden took office in January this year. It took them a while to sell weapons to the Saudis, I guess. The chamber on Tuesday voted 67 to 30 against the resolution, which represented the latest attempt by legislators to attempt to block U.S. weapons transfers to Saudi Arabia over its involvement in the continuing war in Yemen. It had been introduced by Republicans Mike Lee and Rand Paul, as well as Bernie Sanders, an independent who caucuses with Democrats. In a speech on Tuesday, Sanders said, "Exporting more missiles to Saudi Arabia does nothing but further this conflict and pour more gasoline on an already raging fire." Saudi-led coalition says it killed at least 160 Houthi fighters in Marib. Do I have to... Yeah. Oh, that's right, it's archived, so it's not going to play the video anyway. A military coalition assembled by Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates intervened in Yemen's conflict in 2015 in support of President Abd Rabu Mansur Hadi's internationally recognized government shortly after the Houthis took control of the capital in Sana'a. Both sides have been accused of committing atrocities over 7 years of fighting, resulting in an estimated 233,000 deaths and 5 million people on the brink of famine. "We could stop this war if we really had the will to do it," Paul said on the Senate floor. "All of America should be appalled at the humanitarian disaster caused by the Saudi blockade of Yemen." The Biden administration had promised a reset of relations with Riyadh over human rights concerns and the 2018 killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi, which U.S. intelligence links directly to Saudi Arabia Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, MBS. Saudi officials have denied MBS was involved in Khashoggi's murder, but Washington has also taken a more pragmatic approach toward Riyadh, whose influence over oil markets and strategic significance in the region continue to make it a key U.S. ally. Why is the U.S. removing military assets from the Gulf? It's on an archive, so I can't play the video. In February, Biden announced an end to support for all offensive operations by Saudi-led forces in Yemen, but pledged to continue to support the kingdom's ability to defend itself. On Tuesday, the Biden administration had said it strongly opposed the resolution to prohibit the weapons sale. Passage would undermine the president's commitment to aid in our partners' defenses at a time of increased missile and drone attacks against civilians in Saudi Arabia, the White House Office of Management and Budget said in a statement. But how are the missiles going to stop that they sold? How are they going to stop that from happening? The Wall Street Journal reported on Monday that Riyadh is currently appealing the U.S. and other allies to supply hundreds more Raytheon missiles and defense-made Patriot missile interceptors to repel drone and ballistic missile attacks from the Houthis, citing a dwindling supply. The State Department is considering a direct sale, according to the newspaper. So, in spite of people being aware of you know, Saudi Arabia just dropping bombs on civilians constantly. The United States still is selling weapons to them. You know, who cares? Might as well. Why not? Right? Alright, what's next? Alright, so this is, in Tamil Nadu. Alright, I guess I need to allow the website so it'll know that it's still... Okay, there, I can stretch it over and now the social media crap isn't blocking it. Notorious defender of democracy and freedom, Saudi Arabia. They're on the Human Rights Council at the UN now. It's like, you know, just to like really rub it in what a clown world we live in. CDS Bipin Rawat, wife and 11 army personnel died in IAF chopper crash in TN. That's Tamil Nadu. As many as 13 people on board the IAF helicopter, that's Indian Air Force, were killed in the crash with just one survivor. Chief of Defense Staff General Bipin Rawat, his wife Madhulika, and 11 other personnel died on Wednesday after an Indian Air Force helicopter carrying them crashed near Kunur in Tamil Nadu in apparently foggy conditions. The fate of General Rawat was not immediately known. Union Defense Minister confirmed his demise on Wednesday evening. Deeply anguished by sudden demise of CDS General Bipin Rawat, his wife, and 11 other armed forces personnel in helicopter accident, Singh said. Let me check, find exactly where Tamil Nadu is. I can pull up the map of it. Alright, yeah. Very, very southernmost tip of India. So, this state, you can't see the border super clear. Actually, there you go. So, there's a map of India. It's right next to Kerala. CDS General Bipin Rawat's untimely death is an irreparable loss to our armed forces and country, Singh added. According to reports, 13 people on board were killed in the crash with just one survivor. Group Captain Varun Singh, with injuries, is currently under treatment at Military Hospital Wellington, the IAF said. The IAF said a court of inquiry has been ordered into the accident involving a Mi-17VH helicopter which took off from the Sulur IAF station in nearby Coimbatore. General Bipin Rawat, Chief of Defense, was on a visit to Defense Services Staff College, Wellington, Nilgiri Hills, to address the faculty and student officers at the staff course today, said the IAF in a statement. Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin, oh, so this is where M.K. Stalin is from, expressed shock over the incident. Singh, who is monitoring the situation, briefed Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi about the crash, and the IAF chief was asked to reach the site. Singh also visited the residence of Rawat and spoke to his daughter. According to accounts of official sources and a local eyewitness, says, interviewed by the PTI, the helicopter was flying at a low altitude in the foggy conditions when it crashed into a valley here before falling through trees. Fire engulfed the helicopter by the time it landed on the ground. Although it brushed a house during its fall, there was no human casualty or injury since the residents were not home. The building suffered damage in the episode. 2 persons who were ablaze fell down from the helicopter. Perumal, an eyewitness, told PTI. 2 helicopters carrying Rawat and others had left Sulur IAF station in Coimbatore around 10:30 a.m. on Wednesday and was supposed to land at Defense Staff College in Wellington at Udhagamandalam. I think that's right. Udhagamandalam. An hour later. Later it crashed in the forest area, reducing trees to pieces of logs and ashes due to resultant fire. Even as the local people turned first responders to try to save the injured. However, they could not help the victims due to the raging flames and informed authorities. Apparently, a major tragedy was averted as the helicopter fell at some distance away from a human habitation, averting possible mass casualties. Wow, that just sounds awful. It just sounds like a horrible incident. And apparently just an accident. But, so this guy was chief of defense staff, so that's like a really prominent position, so that might have been like sabotage or something, you know. That's fucking interesting. But yeah, that's an awful way to die. I wonder, I mean, that definitely could be an accident, but it seems a little suspicious. Oh wait, that's the wrong one. Let me refresh the page real quick, see if there's any. Yeah, News and Anon's posted the op-ed. Wonder if it'll make it sound like it was the Noxels. I mean, it's pretty fucking far away. Like, you know, let me see. So, Tamil Nadu is down here, like next to Kerala. The other communists, famous in the Naxalites. I think it might, yeah. I mean, so like, they're not on opposite sides of India, but you know, that's kind of far. Like, it's not impossible, but that seems a little bit out of the way. But yeah, like, let's compare. So let's look at Florida. Florida's got a good shape for this. So about to where the hook is the bottom of Florida. Yeah, so we're looking at like something like more than the height, the north-south dimension of Florida. You know, let's take France. France is another good comparison for size. Yeah, so we're looking at like, you know, across the a similar length, a distance of like going across France. You know, big distance. Morning, Eugene. How are you doing? Just read a story about a helicopter crash that killed one of the leaders of the Indian military. $7:51. Well, it's not. It's hardly late at all, and I'm already through the first post today. Has there ever been any really big, complicated stories? A crash. Well, yeah, like what we were just saying, though, like, you know, it's a bit far away from where the activity is that would, hold on, did I close? Yeah. So, yeah, like here's, you know, here's a map showing like Naxalite regions, so even like marginally affected districts. The farthest south it goes is like around here, and the crash happened in the state of Tamil Nadu, which actually, let me check. It'll say what the actual specific place was. Kunur. Okay. Which... Alright. Let's check where exactly this is. Okay, so that's like the eastern... I mean, the western tip. So we're looking at like from up here to down here. So that's like, that's a pretty far distance for them to have done anything. Now maybe somebody else did something, but like if it's, you know, the Naxalites, the Maoists, that's a little out of the way from where they are. But it could be. They're investigating it. I do think there's a chance that they'll say that it was them, even if it wasn't. So, there was an Amazon story. Yeah, let's do that one first from the second group, but I'll read the rest of the headlines in order. And I'll remind anybody, if you want me to read a specific story, I'll do that. Whether it's one from the list or if it's one that you submit. Nail-biter in Seattle and recall of socialist Kshama Sawant remains too close to call. Okay, actually, maybe I should read this one first. Better.com CEO fires 900 employees on pre-holiday Zoom call. Oh my god. About 900 employees of real estate company Better.com were asked to attend a Zoom call on Wednesday, but rather than offering a holiday message to workers, CEO Vishal Garg delivered a 3-minute speech informing attendees they were terminated effective immediately. Oh, that's just too nuts to not read. Kellogg to replace 1,400 strikers as deal is rejected. Oh my god. Okay, well, there's a bunch of labor stuff then. Supreme Court skeptical of Maine law barring state funds for religious schools. The Supreme Court expressed deep skepticism Wednesday of a Maine school tuition assistance program that allows parents to use vouchers to send their children to attend public and private schools, but excludes religious schools from the program. Oh no. Oh no. That could be a bad precedent. Allergan to pay New York $200 million in opioid settlement. The settlement comes more than 200 years after James filed the lawsuit. It bars the company from selling opioids in New York. Earlier this year, Johnson & Johnson reached a $230 million settlement with the state, agreeing to halt the manufacturing and sale of such drugs in New York. As part of the agreement, the company will also have to make information about opioids and opioid products more accessible to the public per the release. Well, maybe that's gonna like do something. I mean, it seems pretty minor compared to the opioid problem, but maybe that's like the right kind of thing that you could do, is to make these companies pay for, you know, restitution to try to solve the problem. But it's not gonna really do much to stem the issue. Like, it's too profitable to pump people full of painkillers and get them addicted. Anyway, Pharma Bro firm reaches $40 million settlement in price gouging case as Shkreli faces trial. A drug company previously owned by Martin Shkreli, known as Pharma Bro. I didn't realize God, that's so stupid. That's so embarrassing. Known as Pharma Bro and its parent company have agreed to pay up to $40 million to settle a complaint over allegations they fleeced patients by hiking up the price of a life-saving medication by around 4,000%. 4,000%. So 40 times the price. Well, maybe I'll give that a quick read. But alright, so I'll do the Kshama Sawant one first. People might want to tune in for that. That's the Amazon one. So this might tell us something about the viability of local electoral politics and entryism. So, to review, Kshama Sawant is a socialist, a Trotskyite on the Seattle City Council. Let's see if I can zoom in. There we go. Seattle City Council member Kshama Sawant speaks during a rally at the Amazon Spheres at headquarters in solidarity with Amazon workers in Bessemer, Alabama, who hope to unionize in Seattle, Washington on March 26, 2021. Wait, what? Surely that means 2022. If this is like a current article. I guess it's just an error. So yeah. Eugene's about to get banhammered for talking about LGBT people. That's when she was. Oh, she was speaking. Okay, in 20. It's just the tense that's fucked up then. So it's not that they hope to unionize. They hoped to unionize. Still an error. That's when she was speaking, not when it happened. Oh, okay, it's just confusing fucking grammar, that's all it is. God. Alright. Critical support for trots. Can anyone say bougie? Emphasis on critical support. Yeah. So, yeah, see, this is going to tell us maybe if it's viable to be, you know, an interest, or to be, you know, doing local electoralism. Because she's just on the city council. It's not that big of a deal. But yeah, so nail-biter in Seattle as recall of socialist Kshama Sawant remains too close to call. Preliminary returns showed effort to oust progressive city council member was supported by a 53% of voters, but crucial late ballots might lean in her favor. That's... Preliminary returns show support by 53%. That's not looking good. But it would be... You'd need to probably, like, analyze closely all of the things leading up to this. It's kind of like that vote that happened... to whether or not to unionize in Alabama that got overturned because of ballot stuffing and shit. She's probably done. Maybe. I think that's what I'm leaning toward. But it might also be a situation where people see that, like, there's something that there's like a fix in, but, you know, they're propping up progressivism like the gay pride porky guy. Yeah, well, you can be progressive, and this is also Portland, which is like one of the most progressive woke kind of parts of the country. So you can be like progressive all you want, but you can't be a socialist. Basically seems to be the message here. The outcome of the recall effort targeting socialist Seattle Council member Kshama Sawant was too close to call early Wednesday, as supporters pointed to her 2019 electoral win as a sign she may still have a chance to fend off the challenge. Big business and the right wing want to remove Kshama because she's such an effective fighter for working people. District 3 Council member Sawant, a member of the Socialist Alternative Party, faced a recall election on Tuesday and the final ballot count to be expected Friday. As of late Tuesday, results showed 53% of District 3 voters backing the recall, compared to roughly 47% opposed. If the approximately 2,600 ballots left to count, according to the Seattle Post Intelligencer, Sawant needs more than 75 in her favor to avoid ouster. Yeah, that sounds pretty dunzo. The PI also noted that progressive voters are known for voting later, which means the bulk of the remaining votes could be done in Sawant's favor. Yeah, but 75%. Author and social justice campaigner Jonathan Rosenblum expressed optimism about Sawant's chances as well. The middle-class libs have also stabbed her in the back. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's hard to say stabbed in the back. It's not like they were ever on her side. Portland is like a very bougie kind of area, so, you know, it's I don't know. I have mixed feelings, because obviously you've got people who are more prone to be open-minded about some things like this, but like at the same time, a lot of like very liberal people tend to be very well off and have contrary class interests, so that you might actually be better off targeting somewhere that's, you know, more centrist or conservative or whatever. It's for a place to do entryism like this. I mean, I think it was with the DSA, but Lee Carter got elected to the Virginia legislature. He's no longer in office there, but Virginia's not this like super blue progressive state. My understanding is that District 3 is poor as fuck. That would make some sense, yeah. The big question is motivating people to give a shit about politics rather than worrying about people going back to Team Democrat. Middle class have always loathed Sawant. Yeah. Well, I think a big part of the problem is people just stuck into the idea that politics is, you know, Republican versus Democrat, and that there's no way to do it other than that. And when it comes to electoral politics, maybe that's true. We're going to beat this right-wing recall, he wrote, that's Rosenblum, in a Twitter thread late Tuesday. Because late votes, which aren't in tonight's count, lean left, and recallers had to keep us under 44% tonight to win, he said. They failed. In the 2019 election to hold, I don't know how you know that number, but whatever. In the 2019 election to hold onto her District 3 seat, Sawant had 45.61% on election night and ended up with 51.83%, tweeted Rosenblum. Tonight we started with 46.9 and will only improve from there. The recall campaign, as Common Dreams reported this week, that's a little, you're assuming a little too much there. The recall campaign, as Common Dreams reported this week, is backed by Republican donors and real estate developers, of course. According to Kashama Solidarity Campaign, the recall effort is bankrolled by right-wing billionaire donors and is underway because Sawant has used her 8 years in office to win historic victories like the $15 minimum wage, the Amazon tax to fund housing, and landmark renters protections that infuriate the real estate lobby. So here's the thing, you know, maybe she's going to get ousted, probably going to get ousted, I guess, but like, this is at the end of an 8-year career in this position where she managed to do some things. So even if you can't like maintain it sustainably, if you can get somebody in that position, maybe you can like spend the time to do something. It's a bigger thing when you're dealing with urban centers. Poors of the big city do not vote. Most don't believe in democracy at all. And can you blame them, really? I agree, Eugene. The attempted recall Sawant is primarily an attack on renters by landlords. Says Robert Kurikshank, quote tweeting Heidi Gruber. But it would be still be a win for the landlord groups. No other CM has sponsored as many landlord-tenant laws as Sawant, as far as I know, and it remains to be seen if any of them would take up these issues the same way she has. As recall supporters accuse Sawant of using city resources to support a ballot initiative flouting state pandemic rules by admitting people into City Hall when it was closed to the public, and violating confidentiality rules by leading a protest march to Mayor Jenny Durkin's private residence. Sawant's team rejects those charges, saying in a statement to local King 5 that the accusations are dishonest and the courts haven't found her guilty of anything. Big business in the right wing want to remove Kashama, the statement continued, because she's such an effective fighter for working people. Sawant's current term is set to expire at the end of 2023. If the recall effort is successful, she would be removed December 17th, the day elections results would be certified. A special election to fill the seat would take place in 2022. So, seeming like that's what's going to happen. What's the Amazon one is next? Yeah, she did just tell the pandemic narrative to fuck off, kind of, didn't she? Alright, I'll put this in the chat. Maybe people want to see this one, because this is a pretty big deal. This is AP. I can allow AP. Give me your JavaScript AP. Alright. Major outage at Amazon disrupts businesses across the US. So it's another Amazon Web Services failure, I guess. Just like that other time, it's fucking monopoly shit, dude. Everybody depends on the same infrastructure. Everybody depends on the same infrastructure, and you, one point of failure, everything goes down, and you can't do business. And this is like the second time in a few months that this has happened too. So let's see, a major outage at Amazon's cloud computing network Tuesday. severely disrupted services at a wide range of US companies for more than 5 hours, the latest sign of just how concentrated the business of keeping the internet running has become. The incident at Amazon Web Services mostly affected the eastern US, but still impacted everything from airline reservations and auto dealerships to payment apps and video streaming services to Amazon's own massive e-commerce operation. Oh, maybe that's why Twitch is doing shitty today. That might have something to do with it. That included the Associated Press, whose publishing system was inoperable for much of the day, greatly limiting its ability to publish its news report. Oh, we're getting a little meta here, aren't we? Amazon has still said nothing about what exactly went wrong. In fact, the company limited its communications Tuesday to terse technical explanations on an AWS dashboard in a brief statement delivered via spokesperson Richard Rocha that acknowledged the outage had affected Amazon's own warehouse delivery operation, but said the company was working to resolve the issue as quickly as possible. This country's gonna go to shit. Oh, is going to? No, it's already going to shit. So much is centralized in the most optimized way, unoptimized way possible. Yeah, dude. You know, it's like the whole thing where all these cities have to get food shipped in constantly on trucks, and if that shipping broke down, you have like a week or two, maybe like 2 weeks worth, let's say, of food in the city. So what happens then? Like, people run out of food within 2 weeks, and then what? You know, it's fucking, it's gonna get bad. You know, if you can find like a sustainable alternative source of food, or any other basic needs that you have, definitely do that. Definitely get into like prepping type of stuff, because that'll help you survive. Because the system that we've got is not constructed to deal with crises effectively. And here's this is just like a little hiccup, you know, what's happening here in this article. Roughly 5 hours after numerous companies and other organizations began reporting issues, the company said in a post on the AWS status page that it had mitigated the underlying problem responsible for the outage, which it did not describe. It took some affected companies hours more to thoroughly check their systems and restart their own services. Amazon Web Services was formerly run by Amazon CEO Andy Jassy, who succeeded founder Jeff Bezos in July. Oh, that's right, Jeff Bezos is no longer the CEO. He's just like on the board or something. The cloud service operation is a huge profit center for Amazon. It holds roughly a third of the $152 billion market for cloud services, according to a report by Synergy Research, a larger share than its closest rivals, Microsoft and Google combined. To technologist and public data analyst, access activist Carl Malamud, the AWS outage highlights how much big tech has warped the internet, which was only originally designed to be as distributed and decentralized as a distributed and decentralized network intended to survive mass disasters such as a nuclear attack. Yeah. When we put everything in one place, be it Amazon's cloud or Facebook's monolith, we're violating that fundamental principle, said Malamud. We developed the internet's first radio station and later put a vital U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission database online. We saw that when Facebook became the instrument of a massive disinformation campaign. We just saw that today with the Amazon failure. Widespread and often lengthy outages resulting from single-point failures appear increasingly common. In June, the behind-the-scenes content distributor Fastly suffered a failure that briefly took down dozens of major internet sites, including CNN, the New York Times, and Britain's government homepage. Governments really should have their own, come on, like, you really should have your own servers. Prepare for the great implosion, yeah. Yeah, shit's gonna get rough. Probably not that far off either. It just takes enough, a couple of things that like combine and fuck everything up at once, you know. It doesn't take a lot. It just takes the bad luck to have the right combination of problems. Well, yeah, and the more centralized it is, the fewer things have to go wrong for there to be a systemic collapse. Or a serious crisis, even. Just to forget full collapse, but just like major failure of some kind. Like failure to do web services, failure to deliver food, failure to electricity, like what was happening in Texas, you know. Then in October, Facebook, now known as Meta Platforms, blamed a faulty configuration change for an hours-long worldwide outage that took down Instagram and WhatsApp in addition to its titular platform. This time, problems began mid-morning on the US East Coast, said Doug Mattery, director of internet analysis at Kentic Inc., a network intelligence firm. Netflix was one of the more prominent names affected. Kentic saw a 26% drop in traffic to the streaming service. Customers trying to book or change trips with Delta Airlines had trouble connecting to the airline. Delta is working quickly to restore functionality to our AWS-supported lines, said spokesperson Morgan Durant. The airline apologized and encouraged customers to use its website or mobile app instead. Dallas-based Southwest Airlines said it switched to West Coast servers after some airport-based systems were affected by the outage. Dude, booking tickets for planes is one thing, but like that makes it sound like air traffic control or something could have been affected. Can you imagine if like Amazon's web servers go down and like suddenly they're unable to process like where the fucking planes are flying? This may be the best thing I've ever heard. This isn't even the first time this happened. There was an Amazon Web Service outage like I want to say like 4 months ago. This kind of thing is happening more and more, and it's not just Amazon. It's happened to other, like they said, other places too. This is becoming a trend. Southwest spokesman Brian Parrish said there were no major disruptions to flights. Toyota spokesman Scott Vazin said the company's U.S. East region for dealer services went down. The company has apps that access inventory data, monthly payment calculators, service bulletins, and other items. More than 20 apps were affected. Also, according to Down Detector, people trying to use Instacart, Venmo, Kindle, Roku, and Disney Plus reported issues. The McDonald's app was also down. Not the fucking burgers, dude. Oh no, not the burgers. Somebody please think of the burgers. But the airlines, American, United, Alaska, and JetBlue were unaffected. They were working with somebody else, I guess. Mattery said he saw no reason to suspect nefarious activity. He said the recent cluster of major outages reflects how complex the networking industry has become. More and more of these outages end up being the product of automation and centralization of administration, he said. So they're letting the machines run it. They're letting AI manage the stuff, and it's fucking up. This ends up leading to outages that are hard to completely avoid due to operational complexity, but are very impactful when they happen. That's a complicated way of saying, like, we can't do shit because we're basically like nobody's in the driver's seat. They can't fix things because it's too complicated for anybody to understand. Which is another reason why the monopolization is not a good thing for these systems, because that's how you get so complex. That you've got one system that's running all of this at once. My guess is what happened is they have like some sophisticated model that tries to guess how much traffic something is going to demand, and they make projections that they then use to adjust what they're doing and how they're sending the data, and then it so happens that what ends up the demand ends up being is outside of the parameters that they expected, and it causes too much of a load on the system and it crashes. I'm guessing it's something along those lines. That it was outside of their predictive model. They just had a little bit more traffic than they thought they might, that they thought they would be reasonable to expect, and it overloaded. If it's not that, it's probably something equally simple and stupid. It was unclear how or whether the outage was affecting the federal government. The U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency said in an email response to questions that it was working with Amazon to understand any potential impacts this outage may have for federal agencies or other partners. Hilarious. This is like, RoboCop shit. The governments are now depending on these private companies to host their websites and to be able to do, some of their important features. What a fucking clown shit. What a fucking clown show. Alright, so now we got three negative stories about, what was it? What was the op-ed? Because 3 negative stories about labor news. Jen Psaki is annoyed by the very thought of free COVID tests for all. Wow. Okay. Oh, and News Anon posted something from Bakunin today. Alright, so 3 stories about labor news. Let me make sure I can read this one. Let me turn on JavaScript just so I can. Alright, so I'll say I'm reading this one. I'll let everybody know. It looks like nobody's in the Matrix at the moment. But, you know, comes and goes. So I don't know, I was not familiar with better.com. I hadn't heard of it before opening this article. It's apparently a real estate company. About 900 employees of real estate company better.com were asked to attend a Zoom call on Wednesday, but rather than offering a holiday message to workers, CEO Vishal Garg delivered a 3-minute speech informing attendees they were terminated effective immediately. Videos of the Zoom call have been posted on social media networks and YouTube, with a source familiar with the company verifying the authenticity of the recordings. In the video, Garg sits at a white table wearing a business casual outfit of slacks, a shirt, and a blue vest, and tells the workers that the challenging decision is his, and that it's the second time he's had to lay off workers. The last time I did it, I cried, Garg confides in the fired employees. This time I hope to be strong. Holy shit, dude. Alright. Let me pull this video up, since apparently it's on YouTube. Better.com layoff video. See if I can find the actual. I'll tell them. Let's see. Most of these look like it's news companies reporting it. Let's try to find one that's just the video of the actual, no, that's... Let's try this one. Nope, that's a news story. I hate this. I just want to see the actual video itself. Now this is another news story. Okay, this looks like it. Alright, here we go. Found it, I think. Yeah, I know, I'm so... It's that, actually, hold up, let me see. Oh, I can't show that video because it's got a butt in it. But it's like that South Park, that fucking bit from South Park where, like, the BP CEO is like, "We're sorry. We're sorry. We're very, very sorry." And he's, like, doing all these, like, photo op poses to try to do, like, the most elegant apology ever. And not doing anything. Oh, yeah, it's literally the Lord Farquaad meme saying, it's like, "Some of you may die, but it's a risk. It's just, what is it? That's a risk I'm willing to take." Yeah. Oh my god. Alright. Let me pause the music so it's not competing. Turn this up. Alright. I don't think this has very good quality. Alright.
You are part of the unlucky group being laid off.
Did I skip something?
If you're on this call, you are part of the unlucky group being laid off. Your employment here is terminated effective immediately. It's been a really, really challenging decision to make. I've This is the second time in my career I'm doing this, and I do not want to do this. The last time I did it, I cried. This time I hope to be stronger. But we are laying off about 15% of the company.
You gotta be kidding me.
The market has changed, as you know, and we have to move with it in order to survive. You're going to get an email from HR, askhr@better.com, and your benefits. For all U.S. employees, we're
This is
providing
not
4
real.
weeks
Oh my God,
of
I
severance,
can't believe this.
1 month of full benefits, and 2 months of COBRA, for which we will pay the premium.
Oh,
Thank you for
no,
each and
this
every
is
one of
not
your
happening.
individual contributions to Better. I wish the news was different. I wish we were thriving
I can't believe
enthusiastically
this.
as we were at the beginning of this year.
Wait, piss on the floor. Look in the sky, wait for missiles to show. It's finna blow, cause they got the TV.
Wow, okay, so that's fucking rough. I just realized I was muted, but yeah, I was totally expecting there to be like some spin to it and not just totally blunt like that. But no, they were just like, yeah, you're fired. Too bad. That's what shitty news to get at that time of year too. Like, it's fucking winter and you know everybody's gonna be out buying shit. Stuff's gonna be expensive. You gotta find a new job. God, what a mess. Alright, so yeah, the Zoom call is sparking outrage on social media, with users decrying Garg's mass video layoff as crass and criticizing its timing just weeks before the holidays. On LinkedIn, fired Better.com workers are asking for leads on new jobs while also expressing surprise at the sudden terminations. In the video, Garg says the layoffs impact 15% of Better.com's workforce, but he misspoke, according to the person familiar with the company, who said about 9% of employees are affected. Officials at Better.com didn't respond to requests for comment. The layoffs may also have come as a surprise, given that Better.com had received $750 million in funding just days before Garg fired the employees. The cash infusion is due to Better.com's plan to go public through a so-called Special Purpose Acquisition Company, or SPAC, with a blank check company known as Aurora and funds provided by investor SoftBank, according to TechCrunch. How far behind is this Twitch stream compared to SciTube? Yeah. Yeah, I got Posada Telema. I was talking, and yeah. So it looks like Amazon's servers might have just been screwed up. Let me check really quick. You know, I'm gonna check and see on servers located in Russia. Live. I'm gonna check and see really quick how Twitch sounds, and then I'll come right back. I'm gonna check and see really quick how Twitch sounds, and then I'll come right back. Oh my god. Okay, so Twitch is still back when I was talking about the story in India. That's really, really far behind. Yeah, it must be the AWS services. All right. Let me share the YouTube link. All right. So back to the story. I'll keep an eye on the chat if anybody else needs anything. The layoffs may also come as a surprise given that Better.com has received, yeah. So they're restructuring because they sold out. That's the deal. Meanwhile, Better.com is seeing a backlash on company review sites like Glassdoor.com and Trustpilot.com, with people citing the company's bad leadership. People who identified themselves as former employees on Glassdoor singled out the Zoom call and management as problematic. Garg sent out an email an hour before the meeting. No background, just an ominous invitation, one Glassdoor reviewer said, giving the company 3 stars out of 5. How long did the meeting last? Well, it was supposed to be 15 minutes. Vishal did it in 5 minutes and in a laughable fashion. Meanwhile, videos posted on social media of Garg's mass firing have racked up hundreds of thousands of views, with this one on Twitter receiving more than 500,000 views as of Tuesday morning. Wait, hold on. So
I do not want to do this. The last time I did it, I cried. This time I hope to be stronger.
I think this is the same source.
But we are laying off about 15% of the company for a number of reasons. The market, efficiency, and performances.
The market.
And productivity.
There's a whole bunch of vague buzzwords.
If you're on this call, you are part of the unlucky group.
Fuck you, dude.
That is being laid off. Your employment here is terminated. In time in my career, I'm doing this, and I do not.
Yeah, alright. That was a different edit, at least. Maybe a different source, too. It looked like a very similar video, though. Yeah, so what a shitty move, dude. Just like call in everybody who's gonna get fired and be like, yeah, so we're gonna do some cutbacks, and if you're on the call, you've been cut. Layoffs came out of nowhere. In a video on YouTube, one worker said the layoffs came out of nowhere. Christian Chapman, a former trainer at Better.com, noted that he and others were told with a quick little video that basically said, I don't want to do this, you're laid off. And then everything shut down, and so that was my world yesterday. Chapman noted Riley that he worked up the courage to call his wife. That's just the news you want to hear right before Christmas is, hey honey, I got laid off, don't have any income. Founded in 2016, Better.com is backed by the likes of Japanese investment company SoftBank and the financial services firms Goldman Sachs and Ally. The company sells mortgage services online, promising to help buyers find a rate within seconds and get approved for a mortgage within minutes. Garg hinted on the call that business conditions had changed in the past year and were thriving as enthusiastically as we were at the beginning of the year. He said, that's not the case. He signed off by wishing the fired employee the best of luck in their next career moves. Jesus. So yeah, that seems like it's becoming more and more normal of a thing to do. And also, I guess real estate companies screw over their employees too, just as much as they're screwing over people who need to live somewhere. So let me turn the music down. So Kellogg. So another story about things going bad for the labor movement, unfortunately. Bunch of sad news today. Kellogg to replace 1,400 strikers as deal is rejected. Strike, which began in October, expected to continue as workers seek significant raises, saying they work 80-hour weeks. God. So 2 full-time jobs. Kellogg said it is permanently replacing 1,400 workers who have been on strike since October, a decision that comes as the majority of its cereal plant workforce has rejected a deal that would have provided 3% raises. The bakery, confectionery, tobacco workers, and grain millers BCTGM International Union said an overwhelming majority of workers had voted down the 5-year offer. The decision follows months of bitter disagreement between the company and the union. The rejected offer would have provided cost of living adjustments in the later years of the deal and preserved the workers' current healthcare benefits, but workers say they deserve significant raises because they routinely work more than 80 hours a week, and they kept the plants running throughout the coronavirus pandemic. Employees have been striking since October 5th at plants in Michigan, Nebraska, Pennsylvania, and Tennessee. They make all of the company's well-known brands of cereal, including Apple Jacks and Frosted Flakes. The strike is expected to continue. And they make, like, it's fucking, like, shitty food, too. Like, grains are pretty much garbage. Like grain cereals are pretty shit in terms of nutrition. And stuff like Apple Jacks and Frosted Flakes, that's just, like pieces of sugar. And being marketed to kids as, like, a healthy breakfast. The members have spoken. The strike continues, the union president, Anthony Shelton, said. The International Union will continue to provide full support for our striking Kellogg's members. Workers say they are protesting planned job cuts and offshoring and a proposed 2-tier system that gives newer workers at the plants less pay and fewer benefits. Speaking to The Guardian in October, Trevor Beetleman, president of the BCTGM Local 3G and a 4th-generation employee at the Kellogg plant in Battle Creek, Michigan, described it as a fight for our future. This is just 1 year ago. We were hailed as heroes as we worked through the pandemic 7 days a week, 16 hours a day. Now apparently we are no longer heroes, says Biddleman. We don't have weekends, really. We just work 7 days a week, sometimes 100 to 130 days in a row. For 28 days the machines run, then rest for 3 days for cleaning. They don't even treat us as well as they do their machinery. Wow. Kellogg said it would now move forward with plans to start hiring permanent replacements for the striking workers. The company has already been using salaried employees and outside workers to keep the plants operating during the strike. While certainly not the result we'd hoped for, we must take the necessary steps to ensure business continuity, says Chris Hood, president of Kellogg North America. We have an obligation to our customers and consumers to continue to provide the cereals that they know and love. Ugh. The Rutgers University professor Todd Vachon, who teaches classes about labor relations, said he is not sure the company would be able to hire enough workers to replace the ones who are out on strike in the current economy, and Kellogg may have a hard time finding people willing to cross a picket line. Hold on. Alright, he just posted something in the chat. Somebody was replying to me about the article. And I'm confirming that they were correct. Like, good luck with replacing the workers. Because, yeah. This should get interesting. I mean, it's bad that they're taking the step, but, you know, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. It is a good sign overall that this is becoming more of an open conflict. That striking has become more normal. By voting no, the workers are making a strong statement that they are not satisfied by the agreement, but they're also signaling they believe they have the leverage that's needed to win more. Fetchone said. Earlier this year, about 600 food workers went on strike at a Frito-Lay plant in Topeka, Kansas, and 1,000 others walked off the job at 5 Nabisco plants across the U.S. In another recent strike, more than 10,000 John Deere workers secured 10% raises and improved benefits, but those gains came after the workers remained on strike for a month and rejected 2 offers from the company. The offer that Kellogg workers rejected was the first one they have voted on since the strike began. So, And so they've only voted on one, but how long have they been on strike, did it say? October 5th, so it's a little over 2 months. Wow. So it took over 2 months. Is there a story from today? No, it's about 2 months. It took 2 months for them to get an offer. That is nuts. But hey, we'll see where it goes. I thought there was another labor story. I guess maybe it's just the Supreme Court one about religious schools. Link to support the strikers. Is there one? Did I miss it? I can post... Oh, you've got one. Cool. Well, I'm going to put that in the chats as well. Based News Anon. Alright, that's bctgm.org. Ways to support the Kellogg strike. Awesome. Me. 1. Sign the petition. Let the workers know you're with them. Add your name to the pledge. 2. Join a picket line or drop off food, drink supplies. So they've got Battle Creek, Michigan, Memphis, Tennessee, Omaha, Nebraska, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Then the solidarity letter. Mail or email letters of encouragement directly to the strike line organizers so they can share them with the workers. We should here's an idea. Let's make a thread on leftypol and do one of those like leftypol writes a letter things and then send it to the strikers. Send it to each of the locations. And then of course donate to a strike fund. Strike funds are helping workers meet basic needs and supply strike lines so they can remain steadfast in their mission for a fair contract. Each location has its own fundraiser managed by organizers directly in contact with the workers. Use the links below for donating by location. And help us spread the word on social media. So, oh yeah, they've got Facebook. There's the Twitter one. Give them a follow. What's this? They're a bunch of furries. They got a tiger on their logo. Oh, it's the Tony the Tiger. Is Tony the Tiger based? Is Tony the Tiger a comrade? Well, that's cool. That's good to see. That's the end of it. Cool. Yeah, definitely. I'm not gonna close that. I'm gonna stick that over here. So I've still got it. New Gritty. Tony the Tiger would be a better... Gritty sucks. I'll just be honest. Gritty is also not meant to be, like, anything in particular. Like, it's just a random mascot. But Tony the Tiger going on, we're on strike. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good character to appropriate. Tigers are also pretty cool, so there you go. It's awesome. Keeping up the fight. Hopefully it goes well. It's shitty that it's been 2 months for them to get an offer, and they're gonna try to replace them, but more stories like that, the better. Alright, let's see. Is this a long one? I don't know if I really want to read a long article about First Amendment shit about religion, because that could get like stupidly like fine detail. But I'll read a few paragraphs at least. The Supreme Court expressed deep skepticism Wednesday of a Maine school tuition assistance program that allows parents to use vouchers to send their children to attend public and private schools, but excludes religious schools from the program. Conservative justices such as Samuel Alito, Clarence Thomas, Neil Gorsuch, and Brett Kavanaugh suggested that if a state makes the choice to provide a public benefit, it can't exclude schools based on the fact that they teach the curriculum through the lens of faith. Yeah, but they're also, like, they're religious schools, So giving them, like, if they're explicitly being a religious organization and you give them, like, funding through the government, isn't that a violation of the First Amendment? All they're asking for is equal treatment, but they aren't though. What they're doing is not an equal service, so funding it is not equal treatment. Funding religious education the same way that you would fund secular education isn't equal treatment. They're saying, don't treat me worse because I want to send my children to a religious school rather than a secular school. Treat me the same as the secular school parent next door. But they're not the same. Yeah, okay. See, this is... Thank you, framers of the Constitution. Thank you, Founding Fathers, for giving us the Supreme Court where we can get people like this appointed for life and then make these kind of rulings. Yeah, alright. Let's do the Pharma Bro one. And that's near the end of the list, so depending on how long the op-eds, this is the end of the list. Depending on how long the op-eds are, the Chapo Trap House is a podcast. I don't know, maybe I'll ask Shay about the book, because if the book is ready to read, I might want to... It's only 8:45. Although, maybe I should just leave earlier instead of going to like 10:30 or something like I normally do. That's a depressing thought. I truly believe the government might step in to cover costs rather than give in to strikers' demands. That would be a dark timeline. I'll ask Shay about reading the book though. Whoop. Alright, well, I'll wait for a response. Let's set up, I already did say that I'm gonna read the Farmer Bro thing. Cool. Alright, so people have had time to read that and get in. Farmer Bro firm reaches $40 million settlement in price gouging case as Shkreli faces trial. So this Martin Shkreli, this fucking marked up essential medication. 4,000% for the drug Daraprim. Martin Shkreli seen here leaving the U.S. District Court in Brooklyn, on August 1st, 2017, is currently serving a 7-year prison sentence for a securities fraud conviction over hedge funds he operated before launching into the pharmaceuticals industry. How's he still so smug, dude? These people doing this shit are like aliens or something. They gotta be. To just be like, oh, look at me, I did securities fraud and I went to prison. I mean, it's not like it's prison, but, you know. You'd think that would humble somebody a little bit. Oh. Come on. Yeah, all right. I think I'll read the book off stream and then maybe talk about it a little bit, or read some excerpts. It's not super long, but I'll do that later. I'll probably I'll see where I am at 9, so like 13 minutes. But probably gonna head off a little early tonight. I'll try to get going earlier tomorrow, but it just depends on the trial, you know. Alright, a drug company previously owned by Martin Shkreli, known as Pharma Bro, and its parent company have agreed to pay up to $40 million to settle a complaint over allegations they fleeced patients by hiking up the price of a life-saving medication by around 4,000%. Shkreli, best known for drug price gouging and a snarky online persona, gained international notoriety over the allegations against him and is currently in prison for securities fraud. U.S. Federal Trade Commission said in a statement that its commission and state co-plaintiffs, including New York, California, and Illinois, had filed an order in court that shuts down the illegal scheme. That it said was masterminded by Shkreli to exploit patients dependent on the life-saving drug Daraprim. Shkreli is currently in prison for security fraud. Daraprim is used to treat toxoplasmosis, the cat infection, an infection caused by a parasite that can be deadly for those with HIV, as well as for others with health issues related to the immune system. It can also create health issues for children born to those who are infected while pregnant. And if you don't know, toxoplasmosis is like a worm that can be found in house cats, and is normally not like super harmful, but well, I mean, apparently there was like a precursor, not a precursor, but like a similar sort of idea. The Florida Communist Front, an underground cadre built in Belglade, has issued the following call to action for the consideration of all true comrades towards the People's Protracted War in the Florida Everglades. That's funny. I don't know. That might be worth taking a look at some point. All right. Daraprim, toxoplasmosis. The order comes after the antitrust complaint was filed in January 2020 against Shkreli, as well as against his associate Kevin Mulady. Their company, Vieira Pharmaceuticals LLC, and its parent company, Phoenixus AG. The complaint had accused Shkreli and Mulady of jacking up the price of the drug after obtaining exclusive rights to it before concocting an elaborate web of restrictions to illegally block competitors from producing a cheaper option, the FTC said. Under Tuesday's orders, Vieira and Phoenixus... Phoenix is already a weirdly spelled word, but... So... It looks like it's Phoenixus, but it's Phoenixus AG will be expected to pay up to $40 million in relief for victims, while Mulady has been banned from working with any pharmaceutical company for 7 years. Meanwhile, Shkreli, Vieira's CEO, is expected to begin an antitrust trial over the allegations that is set to start December 14th. With respect to every defendant except Shkreli, this settlement resolves all claims brought by the FTC and the state co-plaintiffs, as well as those brought in a related class action lawsuit. Oh, come on. No, I don't want to go to a separate article. In a separate statement, FTC Chair Lena Khan said the settlement puts money back in the pockets of drug patients fleeced by a monopolistic scheme. I mean, it didn't save anybody's life, though. Like, if it's a life-saving drug that was price gouged, people would have died from it. While litigation against Shkreli continues, the order shuts down the illegal enterprise run by his companies, Vieira and Phoenixus, and bans his associate from the industry, Khan said. This strong relief sets a new standard and puts corporate leaders on notice that they will face severe consequences for ripping off the public by wantonly monopolizing markets. Shkreli is currently serving a 7-year prison sentence for a securities fraud conviction over hedge funds he operated before launching in the pharmaceuticals industry. Contacted after hours for comment, Vieira and Phoenixus AG did not immediately respond. When the lawsuit was initially filed, Vieira had branded its claims meritless and denied it had frozen out potential competitors in the pharmaceutical industry, according to the Associated Press. Well... I mean, This is supposed to be the system working, but this really seems like a hollow victory. Alright. I'll do the Jinsaki one. That's goofy. It's goofy enough that, like, maybe it'll be a bit of a lighter thing, because it's just so stupid. Jin Saki is annoyed by the very thought of free COVID tests for all by Luke Savage. This is an opinion piece, not news. The White House spokesperson was asked why the administration doesn't just send out free COVID tests as other countries do. Her mindless condescend. Hold on, let me zoom in. It just did it? Oh, it's up here. Completely reshuffled the page layout when I zoomed in. Her mindless, condescending response was a reminder that the Democrats are still the party of Aetna? I don't know how you pronounce it. The pharmaceutical company. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki listens to a question during a daily news briefing at the James S. Brady Press Briefing Room in the White House on December 3rd. At a White House press briefing earlier this week, Joe Biden's press secretary Jen Psaki was asked an extremely straightforward question by NPR's Mara Liasson. Why doesn't the United States government simply make COVID-19 testing free or even mail tests to every American household? It was perfectly reasonable to ask, considering that extensive free testing is already underway in several countries throughout the world, and still more reasonable given the plan announced by the Biden administration last week, which will allow people to get reimbursed for tests through their private insurance plans. It's as convoluted and as quintessentially American a solution as one could possibly imagine. Rather than simply offering tests for free from a government website, something like the UK has done, with no trouble, the administration's model will instead force people to purchase them from pharmacies at market prices, obtaining reimbursement through bureaucratized health insurance schemes that an estimated 28 million Americans, or nearly 9% of the population, don't even have. Though some at-home tests will be set aside for those without insurance, it's as yet unclear whether there will be adequate supply, and merely underscores yet again the absurdity of tying health insurance to employment. But it makes the people desperate. If you tie your health coverage to your employer, then you can't just quit because you need the health coverage. You can't go on strike and lose your health benefits. That needs to be like the first thing that people are trying to demand, is like Medicare for all, which is never going to happen under the current system, because like they'll fight against it as an existential threat, which it is. Both the pharmaceutical industry and the insurance industry, and also just employers in general, because it's too useful to them. But anyway. I know she's a clowness, but this is a whole new bottom she has hit right now. Yeah. Though Liaison puts several of these very points to Psaki, her queries were greeted with a mixture of exasperated sarcasm and the American exceptionalism. Liaison, there are still a lot of countries like Germany and the UK and South Korea that basically have massive testing free of charge or for a nominal fee. Why can't that be done in the United States? Psaki, I would say first, we have 8 tests that have been approved by the FDA here. We see that as the gold standard. Whether or not all those tests would meet the standard is a question for this. What the fuck is this? It has nothing to do with what was asked. That is a question for the scientists and medical experts, but I don't suspect they would. Our objective is to increase accessibility and decrease costs. Then just do it. If your objective is accessibility and low cost, then just distribute it for free. Like what? Our objective is to increase accessibility and decrease costs, so distribute it for free. Like, how much more accessible and cheap can you get than distribute it to everyone for free? And if you look at what we've done over the course of time, we've quadrupled the size of our testing plan, we've cut the cost significantly over the past few months, and this effort to ensure insurers are enabled to get your tests funded means 150 million Americans will get free tests. So see, their objective is not to maximize accessibility and minimize costs. Their objective is to increase accessibility and decrease costs. They want incremental change. That's what it is. Because you can still make a lot of profit on that. You want to squeeze as much profit out of it as you can while dragging your feet. Laison, that's kind of complicated though. Why not just make them free and give them out and have them available everywhere? Saki, should we just send one to every should we just send one to every American? Laison, maybe. I'm just asking you. There are other countries, Saki. And what happens if every American has one test? How much does that cost? And then what happens after that? Oh, dude, oh my god. It's like, what if everybody could eat food? What if everybody was no longer having to worry about starving? What if everybody had a house? Well, then what? It's this just brainworms shit, dude. Testing for COVID, I had it like a month ago, and the test would have cost me like $260. Yikes. $260 for just a test is ridiculous for anything, really, unless it's like some kind of complicated imaging or something like that. Like, or a biopsy. What the fuck? Yeah, so then what happens if every American has one test? How much does that cost? And what happens after that? Liaison, all I know is that other countries seem to be making them available in greater quantities for less money. Saki, we share the same objective, which is to make them more accessible, right? Every country's going to do that differently. This is just like this is like gaslighting shit. This is the kind of shit that somebody says, like, an abusive parent or something. Where it's like, you know, they're just trying to like find a fucking excuse to explain why they're doing something that's ridiculous and shitty and unjustifiable. It's like Jimmy Dore would say that like everybody in the country is like behaves like an adult child of an alcoholic. You know, people have like become so used to this kind of you know, condescending gaslighting shit from capitalist apologia, that like it's internalized and just normalized, and everybody just repeats this kind of shit. Oh, like, what if we just solved problems? If we just solved problems, then we wouldn't have problems anymore. And then, like, what would we do then? It's like that episode of Star Trek where they get this like guy who was a billionaire, was like frozen or whatever, and he ends up in the future, and he's like, but if there's no like money for me to make, what's the point of anything? It's like, it's the Protestant work ethic where the meaning of life comes from the struggle or whatever. And it's like, oh, we can't just fix things. We can't just do things that need to be done. We can't just solve problems, because then what would happen? You know, well, then what would happen is you've solved the problem and you can move on to other stuff. But it's like, it's just a justification to not fix things. At urgent care, which is fucking packed. Well, I guess it would be packed. Yeah. And it was yeah. Ugh. Because free stuff is communism. Yeah, I mean, that's real. That's the mentality. Yeah. Suffering is good, basically. If you try to fix things, you try to do things that need to be done, it's communism, and it's bad. But hey, you know, I mean, it's not being said directly here, but if people wanted to, like, if you know, our opponents want to point at everything good that people are asking for and say, that's communism. Good things that people want, that's communism. You know, that's just going to help us. So, I'm okay with them saying that. You know, it's, you know, everybody please, like, direct your attention over to this political project that actually does have answers. Anyway. So back to Jen Psaki. For all the talk about how much the liberalism of the Biden era has radically broken with its ideological antecedents in the Barack Obama and Bill Clinton eras, the whole episode is a stark reminder of the kind of thinking that continues to dominate the Democratic Party. Even when facing a world historic crisis, it seems, the political imaginations of America's most powerful liberals still default to conservative arguments about the cost, the tired rhetoric, and the trick language of access and affordability, and above all, deference to the private sector. The very idea of a simple public good removed from market considerations entirely remains anathema. Yeah, it's like, you know, people want to privatize libraries and shit like that too. Like, everything has to be operated for profit. It's like brainworms. It's a psychosis, dude. All told, it's a testament to the ongoing firmness of neoliberalism's grip on the Democratic Party, notwithstanding some of the spending measures and social supports that did emerge in response to COVID-19. From economics to healthcare, the pandemic was as good an occasion as any since 2009 to radically re-examine and reform the very foundations of public policy and question axiomatic assumptions about America's bare-bones welfare state or the wisdom of tying healthcare to employment. Although the administration initially spent big and served up poverty-cutting direct cash payments, it has tended toward phasing out or watering down or means testing of benefits rather than making some version of them permanent. On healthcare reform, meanwhile, Biden's once touted public option remains totally missing in action. Barack Obama ran on a public option. Remember that? Maybe I'm a little old, I'm showing my age here, but Barack Obama in 2008, first of all, he was basically, initially in the primary, he was basically advocating Medicare for all in 2008. And then once he entered the general election, he of course walked that back to advocating for a public option. But then once he got elected, what he actually implemented was the same healthcare plan that Mitt Romney had in Massachusetts, which is a mandate to buy insurance, which is, of course, just saying that you have to give money to these insurance companies. It's not actually providing anything. It's just forcing you to purchase something that's already there. Now, of course, there's other measures that are in Obamacare, but that's like the core of it. Instead of providing a free public option or Medicare for all, you have to just go buy it. Also, the testing doesn't even make sense from a capitalist perspective unless the person saying it has a direct stake in limiting tests. Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's why they're saying that the Democrats are representing Anon, is because this is in the interest of the pharmaceutical companies that produce the test. You know, they don't want to have to cut into their profits by, you know, providing it for free to some people. They want everybody to pay for it. You know, and because it's all so centralized, because, like, all these pharmaceutical companies are, like, it's a few of them that are doing all of the COVID stuff. What ends up happening is anything like this is, you know, pegged to the interest of a massive pharmaceutical company. So they're like, all right, well, you got to pay for the testing, and if you don't go along with it, if you don't support what they want, who else are you going to go to? Because they have a monopoly, or an effective monopoly. People getting sick and spreading COVID means more people need testing, using more kits overall and less productivity. Well, more kits overall is good for the pharmaceutical company. It means you got more money that you can make. That's whose interest is being served by this kind of stuff. Biden did too towards the end of, he mentioned it once. Oh yeah, that's right. I do think I remember Biden mentioning the public option like one time. But yeah, it's the same sort of, like, it's just a hollow promise to win an election. Alright, yeah, somebody in the Matrix was like, I know she's a clown ass. Jen Psaki talking about this, but this is a new bottom. And then somebody else says, she'll have a jackhammer and start drilling down from there. I mean, the way things are going, it seems like it, doesn't it? Despite months of chatter about the dawning of a new progressive era, the outer limits of liberal thinking, even in crisis, still include fiscal restraint, the involvement of private insurance companies, and exasperated condescension at the idea that there might be an alternative. Yeah. Thanks, Jen. Alright, see, this is, I mean, I'm biased, and I would like to read the Bakunin piece. And I very much appreciate that News Anon is putting theory in the op-eds now. But I think probably I should exercise a little bit of restraint and call it a night shortly. I will read a couple paragraphs of this. But I will post this in the Matrix just to see what responses it gets, because usually the topic of, like, anarchism tends to get people a little testy. Alright. I'll read a few paragraphs. Alright, so okay, this is excerpts from various manuscripts. Stateless socialism, anarchism. So I guess I have not read this piece before. A lot of Bakunin is kind of like unfinished or like scattered, as is a lot of stuff from like the contemporaries of Marx. But anyway, so this is, maybe I can find a break point. It looks kind of like it's all just thrown together. I can skim the bolded pieces though, once I decide I'm done. Alright, so let's see. Sources: The Political Philosophy of Bakunin by G.P. Maximoff. Alright, effect of the great principles proclaimed by the French Revolution. From the time when the Revolution brought down to the masses its gospel, not the mystic but the rational, not the heavenly but the earthly, not the divine but the human gospel, the gospel of the rights of man, ever since it proclaimed that all men are equal, that all men are entitled to liberty and equality, the masses of all European countries, of all the civilized world, awakening gradually from the sleep which had kept them in bondage ever since Christianity drugged them with its opium, began to ask themselves whether they too had the right to equality, freedom, and humanity. As soon as this question was posed, the people, guided by their admirable sound sense as well as by their instincts, realized that the first condition of their real emancipation, or of their humanization, was above all a radical change in their economic situation. The question of daily bread is to them justly the first question, for as it was noted by Aristotle, man, in order to think, in order to feel himself free, in order to become man, must be freed from his material cares of daily life. For that matter, the bourgeois, who are so vociferous in their outcries against the materialism of the people, and who preach to the latter the abstinences of idealism, know it very well, for they themselves preach it only by word and not by example. The second question arising before the people, that of leisure after work, is the indispensable condition of humanity. But bread and leisure can never be obtained apart from a radical transformation of existing society, and that explains why the revolution, impelled by the implications of its own principles, gave birth to socialism. Socialism is justice. Socialism is justice. When we speak of justice, we understand thereby not the justice contained in the codes and in Roman law, in the codes and in Roman jurisprudence, which were based to a great extent upon facts of violence achieved by force, violence consecrated by time and by the benedictions of some church or other, Christian or pagan, and as such accepted in absolute principles, from which all law is to be deduced by a process of logical reasoning. No, we speak of the justice which is based solely upon human conscience, the justice to be found in the consciousness of every man, even in that of children, and which can be expressed in a single word: equity. This universal justice which, owing to conquest by force and religious influences, has never yet prevailed in the political or juridical economic worlds, should become the basis of the new world. Without it there can be neither liberty, nor republic, nor prosperity, nor peace. It then must govern our resolutions in order that we work effectively toward the establishment of peace. And this justice urges us to take upon ourselves the defense of the interests of the terribly maltreated people and demand their economic and social emancipation along with political freedom. The basic principle of socialism. We do not propose here, gentlemen, this or any other socialist system. What we demand now is the proclaiming anew of the great principle of the French Revolution, that every human being should have the material and moral means to develop all his humanity. A principle which, in our opinion, is to be translated into the following problem: to organize society in such a manner that every individual, man or woman, should find upon entering life approximately equal means for the development of his or her diverse faculties and their utilization in his or her work, and to organize such a society that, rendering impossible the exploitation of anyone's labor, will enable every individual to enjoy the social wealth which in reality is produced only by collective labor, but to enjoy it only insofar as he contributes directly toward the creation of that wealth. So that's an interesting contrast to the, to each according to his needs. Of course, that's what is this? So he's speaking, I think, maybe more transitionally than that, but it's interesting to see like the difference in how it's phrased. State socialism rejected. This is like, okay, here's where the conflict will come in. The carrying out of this task will, of course, take centuries of development, but history has already. So he's talking about a horizon here. But history has already brought it forth, and henceforth we cannot ignore it without condemning ourselves to utter impotence. We hasten to add here that we vigorously reject any attempt at social organization which would not admit the fullest liberty of individuals and organizations, or which would require the setting up of any regimenting power whatever. In the name of freedom, we recognize as the only foundation and the only creative principle of organization, economic or political, we shall protest against anything remotely resembling state communism or state socialism. Now, see, I disagree with that part. I would criticize it, but I'm not going to... Obviously, it's fucking better than capitalism. Hobokunin being a sectarian. Oh god, everybody's in the Matrix is still shitting on Jen Psaki. Holy shit. Alright. Abolition of inheritance law. The only thing which, in opinion, the state can and should do is first to modify little by little inheritance law so as to arrive as soon as possible at its complete abolition. Well, the state could do that immediately. The law being purely a creation of the state, and one of the conditions of the very existence of the authoritarian and divine state, can and should be abolished by freedom in the state. So, yeah, if you can abolish something, well, you still have a state, you might as well do it. In other words, the state should dissolve itself into a society freely organized in accord with the principles of justice. Inheritance right, in our opinion, should be abolished, for so long as it exists, there will be hereditary economic inequality. Not the natural inequality of individuals, but the artificial man inequality of classes, and the latter will always beget hereditary equality in the development and shaping of minds, continuing to be a source and consecration of all political and social inequalities. The task of justice is to establish equality for everyone, inasmuch that equality will depend upon the economic and political organization of society, an equality with which everyone is going to begin his life, that everyone guided by his own nature will be the product of his own efforts. In our opinion, the property of the deceased should accrue to social fund or the instruction and education of children, both sexes, during including their maintenance from birth until they come of age. As Slavs and as Russians, we shall add that with us the fundamental social idea based upon the general and traditional instinct of our populations is that the property of all the people should be owned only by those who cultivate it with their own hands. We are contrived, so land to the tiller. We are convinced, gentlemen, that this principle is just, and it is essential and inevitable condition of all serious social reform, and consequently Western Europe in turn will not fail to recognize and accept this principle, notwithstanding the difficulties of its realization in countries as in France, for instance, where the majority of peasants own the land which they cultivate, but where most of those very peasants will soon end up by owning next to nothing, owing to the parceling out of land, coming as the inevitable result of the political and economic system now prevailing in France. We shall, however, refrain from offering any new proposals on the land question. We shall confine ourselves now to proposing the following declaration. The Declaration of Socialism, convinced that the serious realization of liberty, justice, and peace will be impossible so long as the majority of the population remains dispossessed of elementary needs, so long as it is deprived of education and is condemned to political and social insignificance and slavery. In fact, if not by law, by poverty, as well as the necessity of working without rest or leisure, producing all the wealth upon which the world now prides itself, and receiving in return only such a small pan thereof that it hardly suffices to assure its livelihood for the next day. Convinced that for all the mass of population, terribly maltreated for centuries, the problem of bread is the problem of mental emancipation, of freedom and humanity. Convinced that freedom without socialism is privilege and injustice, and that socialism without freedom is slavery and brutality. The League for Peace and Freedom loudly proclaims the necessity of a radical social and economic reconstruction, having for its aim the emancipation of people's labor from the yoke of capital and property owners. A reconstruction based upon strict justice, neither juridical nor theological nor metaphysical justice, but simply human justice, upon positive science and upon the widest freedom. Alright, so I think that's an alright place to stop in that. I'm not the biggest fan of Bakunin as an anarchist, but I think that he's very good at making certain points, but you have to read him critically, more so than other people. I do think that a lot of state socialist critics have a good point about being a little surface level and kind of missing things, like the thing where he talks about inheritance being so important. Like, yeah, you should get rid of it, but it's not like, you know, maybe something in there about property relations that's kind of more fundamental, but it's also a little vague, which is kind of disappointing. I do much prefer to read Marx, actually, because of how specific and clear he tries to be. But anyway, I think that's going to be it for tonight. Thanks everybody for tuning in, whether you're still here or not. I'll be back tomorrow. I'll try to make sure that I'm up and running before the end of the trial, if it's running over. It just happened that today it ended at a time that made it so I had to start a little bit later. But I'll see. I'm trying to get better at getting on earlier. So I'll try to do like 6 or something my time, Eastern time. But we'll see. Thanks everybody for coming in. I hope you're all having a good night, and until next time, don't forget to agitate, educate, and organize.
That's all, folks.